Good evening. That I'm Bob Pace. I'm your host here. How to fight CPS and stop taking our children. I thought there'd be a brief message from our attorney Vincent Davis, but apparently there wasn't. So there was a little bit of pause in me coming aboard. I usually wait for him to do his spiel, but it's a warm welcome. I know you've had a long day. Today is a very special day in remembrance of our military people and our people in Hawaii that were brutally attacked and bombed and killed while they're still in their bed sleeping at 6:30 in the morning. December 7th is a day that no one will forget. I think September 11th is another day. And then there's October 7th. Seems to be a number there. I can't remember. I think the 9/11 attack was September 11th. But my prayers go out to the survivors and to all the men that were lost on many of the ships and on the island itself and trying to take off and fight. So I want to give a special thanks for our armed forces, guys. If it wasn't for you guys, we wouldn't have a free democracy that I could do this podcast. And I thank you to continuing to fight overseas and around the world to maintain a democratic society out there in a free area there. So I want to thank all the military men and all the volunteers. There's besides military, there's your fire and police and so forth, your medical doctors, all you people do a tremendous amount of help. But there's one agency that's been really brutal on us, and that is the agency called CPS. Now, I call CPS the Child Protection System. Every state, every county is different. Even in California, the two counties next to each other are different. In Orange County, it's the Child Protection Service, CPS. But in LA County next door, it's the Department of Children and Family Services. Arizona's Department of Children's Services. In Kentucky, it's the cabinet. But anytime I say the word CPS, I mean all of them. And what this agency is a part of social services. We have a social services, it's a government agency, and they're mandated by Congress to protect our children from neglect and abuse, to keep our children safe. And so many children are killed needlessly. So many children are abused and neglected. And it seems lately they're coming along and want to attack the families that are low income, that maybe did a boo-boo here or there, and they want to take away their children. Their children may not be in danger, but they still take away their children. And we don't know that. So I'm here as a loving father who's been fighting CPS for 15 years. And I want you all to know I'll do anything I can to help you. You are like a family to me. You're like a family to me. You're like a family to me. Now, for somebody that just come in the room or haven't been in before, if you want to text a comment, please make your comment about the child protection system or the question. Type a message about a comment or a question. I can't answer all the other things that may be spewed across here. Please show me your name, your city, and your county, and your state. And if you're from a country, you're more than welcome, because we have over 18 countries that have texted in that needed help. We've had South Africa, the provinces on the west side of South Africa. There's been 3 people from South Africa recently been on every day of my show. So when you put your name in there and something about CPS, I'll answer your question. Okay. I'm not here to talk about other things um, that may not pertain to CPS. Now, you found this room. You found me on Facebook, Fighting CPS. There are a total of 8 rooms, include this one. 7 are on Facebook and 1's on YouTube. Now, I broadcast on YouTube and use the StreamYard application. Now, one moment, please. I need to talk to my son for a second. I was talking to my youngest son. I broadcast out of my home, and I live about 3 blocks from the beach. I'm in Surf City, USA, in California. Now, if you want to be a guest on my podcast, please write into Grace at vincentwdavis.com. She will put you on my show. All you have to do is give her your name and phone number and email, and she will contact you, give you a link. If you happen to get knocked off, you can get back on with that same link. It isn't all that bad. It isn't all that bad. So that is the third way. The first way is being in this room. Please show emojis, thumbs up, smiley face or hearts or semi stars. And please check off the want to follow. If you want to be notified when I'm on, check the notification button. But I'm here to help you with some ways about fighting CPS. I've been doing it for 15 years. My attorney, Vincent Davis, has been doing it for 35 years. He just had a very important podcast today at 9:30 for an hour of questions and answers and insights how he can help you fight your CPS case. He's well versed in CPS. He's a trial attorney. He's what you call a dependency lawyer that works in family and juvenile law. That's what this is all about. That's what the child protection system supposed to use, dependency court. Legal won't work. Divorce won't work. Immigration won't work. Those kinds of laws are different. Now, I'm on 7 days a week, twice a day, Monday through Sunday. And I'm on at 10 o'clock in the morning Pacific Standard Time, and again in the evening at 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. Now, there are some exceptions to that rule. Like today, I came on at 8 o'clock because Vincent Davis had a 9:30 podcast, and I didn't want my podcast to interfere with his. Tomorrow, Sunday, I go to church, so I come on at 8 o'clock. And next Saturday, I'm asking to get the time off because it's the state championships in high school football. It's my last weekend of Monday Night Lights. I've been going this whole season, following the team my son played on, and they're again at the national championship level, the best team in high school. And I've been following for 10 years, so it's been, I love football. I played it. It's one of my hobbies, I guess. There's been some interesting games today, so some of you there. But here we are, trying to help one another. Yesterday was really tragic. We had a mother come on who lost her son, 8 months old, in a ball pit. It was a tragic story of where CPS did not take care of the child. Now, they're supposed to, protect them from neglect and abuse, but within CPS and foster care systems they use, children all the time are abused and even killed. And that's a sad tragedy. Now, I had several mothers from South Africa talk about their children and what was going on in their lives. Very similar to what goes on in the USA. The problem is the agencies become rogue. You can't trust them anymore. They're not here to serve you or help you do family reunification. You see, not only are they supposed to take care of and protect your children, they also provide families in need of food, shelter, clothing, transportation, education, whether it's for the children or for the adults in the form of parenting classes or programs. Also supposed to help up medically if you need medical help. And lastly, they're supposed to help you find a job. But instead, they come to you and they ask you, we need to take your child. You don't know any better than you give it to them because you think they're honest. But they're in cahoots. They'll steal your children. They'll violate your civil rights and constitutional rights. They'll lie to you. They'll also do retaliation as they did to me when my wife and I lost our youngest daughter. We're a family of 8. I have 6 children and a wife. I have over 42 years of marriage experience of raising kids and family and so forth. I'm not an attorney, but I do care. I do want to help. Now, I'm repeating some things right now on the screen of what you could do in this podcast. I know it may be a long day. You may be on different hours. And I don't want to bore you either because I talk so much. So I really hope you all can talk. What I like to do now is put my number out. That's the 4th way you interact with this podcast. You can call in right now at 626-698-0990. That's my office phone. I use Vonage, and you can call me, and my phone is set to take your call. I'll put you on speakerphone. You can talk about your case. So please, if you're there, call in to 626-698-0990. Now, there's another number on my screen, 888-888-6582. That's my law offices of Vincent W. Davis. If you want to retain Mr. Davis to fight your case, you call that number, tell them that Bob Pace sent you, and also you talk to Vincent Davis, you tell him Bob Pace sent you. You were sent by Bob Pace. I'm having trouble tonight adjusting the camera here, so let me see if I can get it better there. Okay. Hopefully you all can see me, and my eyes are staying open, my mouth is moving. It seems like I got a lot of lag at a lot of times. It's like I'm talking through a computer full of cobwebs. Now I'll keep alternating between, the 3 ways plus the 4th way you're in the room of how they interact with this podcast. Another way you can talk to Vincent Davis is that I'm offering a free 15-minute Zoom private consultation with him. All you have to do is be a guest on my podcast or talk to you on my phone, my speakerphone. And he will talk to you. He'll talk to you 5 minutes. He may talk longer. But he really cares about you. He really wants to help you. He's a pit bull attorney. When you're looking for attorneys, my rule number 1 says you need an attorney that's experienced in dependency law, family and juvenile law, that has experience with fighting CPS, And furthermore, if you ask the simple questions, there should be only two questions when you try to find an attorney. Number one, you ask the office or the attorney, are they a dependency family juvenile attorney, and do they fight CPS and win back cases for their children? Two, have they ever done a lawsuit against CPS and won with millions of dollars? See, Vincent's done that. And that to me is a good sign of an attorney. It's a pit bull of attorney, because most attorneys will not fight CPS. Now, you're probably saying that the court-appointed attorneys is all that they give you. They're hoping you take that because they're useless. They have a caseload of 30 more clients. They will not help you. They will not help you. Good evening, Monica McCord. She has a question. She's from Atlanta, Georgia. And her name is Monique McCord. And go ahead with your question from Atlanta, Georgia. Why are lawyers hesitant to take civil rights cases to go to lawsuit? Well, one thing, it takes a lot of money and time. Time is worth money to lawyers. Two, the system is so corrupt that social workers will lie. The attorneys representing the social workers are corrupt. That's why they don't take it on. Now, when you take on a civil lawsuit, your child protection system should be done. Your case should be closed. Once it's closed, you can do a lawsuit against constitutional rights or civil rights. Like in my case, I had a social worker that lied. She committed perjury on the witness stand. And it was serious. It was a serious perjury move. And she could be sued. But I didn't have any more money because I'd taken all my money from the sale of my home. See, I'd worked 45 years for my beautiful home. I sold it, quick sale, and took the money and gave it to Vincent Davis so he'd get my kids back. 3 of my 6 children were taken or trafficked or alienated from us parents into foster care. It was terrible. It was a terrible experience. So I talked firsthand about it. But there are attorneys that are fighters. Vincent Davis, one of them. He's a pit bull of attorney. His law office is in Arcadia, California. He has cases in LA County, Orange County, Riverside, San Bernardino, and Merced County up north in Northern California. He also has a case in Oklahoma. He'll go to any state. He'll go to Northern California or any place in California to fight your case. So all you need to do is talk to him. Now, I told you can talk to him for 15 minutes for free once you've been a guest on my podcast and talked, or once you talk to my phone. All I ask is your name, your phone number, and email, and I'll forward it on to my show producer, Grace, who in turn will set up a free consultation for 15 minutes with Mr. Davis. Now, the other way you can talk to Mr. Davis is I've made arrangements right now. At the bottom of my screen is a ticket running. And if you want to talk to him for 15 minutes, I got a special rate of $60 for 15 minutes. And he'll talk to you. All you have to do is go to that website, pay your $60, and sign up for the consultation there. It's that website that's scrolling across the bottom of your screen. Go to that. Now, Monique from Atlanta, Georgia, it says, we have money, and I hear many parents saying the same. go to lawyers will not take their case. Well, you may have to do 50 lawyers calling around. Vincent Davis will take your case. Now, I know Atlanta, Georgia is far away. But all he asks when he comes out to fight your case in your state is be paid for his airfare, his ground transportation, and his hotel and food expenses. But his legal fees, whether in Atlanta, Georgia, or in California, are the same. The legal fees are dependent on how complex and how far along your case has gotten. That'll determine the retainer. That's not necessarily the cost of the action, but it's the retainer. Attorneys work off retainers, which is a sizable amount of money, and so they freely can do their job and bill against it. Problem is, you got to keep track, because I hate to say it, there are bad attorneys out there. But you don't want to use an attorney that has a criminal background, because he won't win your case. Remember, it's dependency law, family law, juvenile law. That's the kind of attorney you need. That's what you got to ask for. And they're around. They're around. You just may have to spend a lot of time on that. But a lot of people waste money on attorneys that are no good. And I know you got to be really careful about spending your money. So I told you the two things you need to ask that law office and an attorney. You need to ask that. Okay, we have Asa Salim, who lives in Jacksonville, Florida. Now, Jacksonville, I don't know too much about this child protection system there. Oh, he lives now there, but his case is in Macon, Georgia. It's a CPS case. If you want to call in Assam, or if you want to set up to be a guest on my podcast, I can take 9 people on my guests on my podcast. So all you have to do is write my show producer, Grace, at vincentwdavis.com. So this is what our gentleman from Gainesville, Georgia, with a CPS case in Macon, Georgia. I'm going to put my number back up. Remember, you can only call during my show time. If you call before my show time or after my show time, I can't take the call. So it's important you call between the show times. So I know, like today, the show sometimes is very slow, very dry. And sometimes I call people that are on regular time of the show. I call them to bring them in to help change the way things are stating, help change the way things are stating. Now, I've only had a couple of people come in tonight, so maybe a slow night, which is okay. We've had Monique McCord here from Atlanta, Georgia. And then we have Elisa Som from Jacksonville, Florida, who had a case with CPS in Macon, Georgia. Now, Assam or Monique, if you want to call in, that would be great. We had an early call, Figueroa, but I don't have a name for you, Figueroa, and I don't know where you're from. And you were asking a question, do you smoke marijuana in California? Well, some places you may, that's up to the jurisdiction. But you should not do illegal drugs. It's illegal on federal property. Marijuana is not a legal drug. It's illegal in some states for medical purposes. But drugs around children do not mix. Little children should not learn about drugs. You got to keep them safe from alcohol and for drugs there. But Figueroa Dreams, if you could tell me your first name and where you're located and your CPS question. I'd like that be pertaining to CPS, either your comment or your question. Now, I do have a lot of topics I can talk about, and it's up to you all because you're interacting with the podcast, what you like to talk about. I'm here to help you. I cannot second guess your case until you tell me your case, and I will try to help you there. You guys, I really care what happens to you. And some of you, have been with me for over a year. I've talked to more than 600 people, all 50 states. And as I say, 18 countries and many depths in the countries. I've had 3 or 4 calls from Europe. I've had 3 or 4 calls. Well, actually, I've had 8 calls from Africa and a couple calls from the Middle East and 1 call from India and 1 from Bangladesh. And then a couple from Australia and 1 from New Zealand. Then in South America, I've had a couple calls down there. And then Mexico, I've had a couple calls. But I'm open. This podcast is you guys to help benefit you, what you want to talk about. All you have to do is ask me a question. Either text me a comment or text me a question. Either call in on my phone and ask a question or be a guest on my podcast and ask a question. Now, a couple of you are from the East Coast, and I already know it's well past 9 o'clock. It's probably about 9:30 or 9:35 on the East Coast. And of course, you're in Europe. You're asleep right now because Europe from the West Coast here is 9 hours. England is 8 hours. So it must be 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning in Europe. But I'd love to help you with your case. If you can ask me a question about your case. Monique and Asa and Figueroa. If you could talk about your case, I will help you. Now, I've already talked pretty much about rule number 1. You don't want to use a court-appointed attorney or a public defender. They don't have time to fight your case. They have a caseload of 30 or more clients. They only know about criminal matters, not about dependency matters. And they're just starting out, so they're not well experienced. So I recommend you get a real attorney, somebody like Mr. Davis. At least you could talk to him, free, on my podcast. Or if you got a little bit of money there, he'll talk to you for a good half an hour for $60. Okay. Asa says his case is in Georgia. Okay. My daughter was raped and the terminated without taking her to a proper test to prove rape. Well, you need to tell me some more cases about your daughter because you're probably accused of not protecting. You probably were accused of neglect. Now, rape is a horrible thing against anybody. It's force when people take something against somebody. And that's wrong. That's totally wrong. And I really think, that people got to think twice. The preparatory or the person that did that. Now we're halfway through our podcast. We have about 20 minutes to go. And I really like to help you, but I need some help with some questions from you. If you could text a message to me, either a comment or a question, I'll gladly help you about your CPS case. So Assam Saleen says, his sister set me up before birth. I'm trying to understand this. My sister set me up before birth. The supervisor was sabotaging my case. She lied on the stand. Well, I caught my social worker as perjury. She was so angry because we had caught her with a lie that she took revenge and told our young daughter, who's 12, that you can emancipate your parents. That means you divorce your mom and dad and all the family members at age 12 in California. So she coached and helped her do that, help her change her name, help her get a new birth certificate with a new social security card so that she could be adopted by foster care. So it is a very, very corrupt and sad things there. So I understand where you're coming from. And the allegations don't add up to the medical records. That's a good point there. Yes, please. Okay. We have Frank Harris in the room. Same thing that happened to me. I'm so sorry, Frank. I have no idea what place you're from. If you could tell me, that'd be great. They do lie on the stand. They lied on my case too. Frank, they lied on my case. Assam says, my sister adopted my daughter. She is looking at her rapist every day since she was raped at 6 months old. Oh no. That's too young. That's an infant. They have no protection. Why would a man rape a 6-month-old infant? Assam says, my son, twin sister, died to do this. Hi, Frank. You're from Riverside County. Glad to have you, Frank. And how can I help you? You said they lied while they're on the stand, so I'm trying to understand. on that. Assam says, how do I get a lawyer to do a pro bono because I receive SSI every month? I know the feeling. I had to sell my home to get my attorney. To get a pro bono attorney is very hard because you have to make sure they're qualified. They can be just like your public defender, and you don't want to do that. Hi, Faye. Welcome to the room. Faye is a loving mother, a single mother who has had 2 children in life. She was in and out of foster care 5 times as a small child growing up. She was raped and molested and child trafficking and sex trafficking. She was brutally tortured by standing on sharp rocks, but somehow she got her high school degree and got a college degree in nursing. Then she grew up and wanted to have children herself, and she had a boy and a daughter. And the daughter was taken from her when the daughter was only 8 months old. And she kept her son because he's a special needs kid. And the social services asked her is which child do you want? She wanted both of them, and she should have had both of them. But they said they can get a lot of money by having her child adopted. It's all about money here. It's all about money. But she misses her daughter every day. And she wants her daughter to know that she loved her. Salim from Georgia. What paperwork do you file to go to the Supreme Court? What you do, are you filing an appeal or complaint with the Supreme Court? I don't know what you're filing. And the paperwork you use is a court forms. You can Google it, depending on what motion you're trying to do or what you're trying to file with the Supreme Court. But I want to help you. Assam says, my rights was terminated already, but I need to go to Supreme Court. Do you want to appeal something? Is that what you want to do? I guess his daughter was in foster care with your sister. Okay. I don't know all the bits and pieces you presented, but I'm trying to understand and help you. My sister lied about leaving her with my nephew. Okay. Faye, it wasn't a choice, Bob. I was forced to pick between my kids or lose both. Yeah, I know it wasn't a choice. They wanted your child because they make a lot of money and you had a beautiful girl, and they didn't want a special needs son, so they went after your daughter. Now, Faye says, please state it right. I'm trying to, or else it just seems as if I just gave up. No, you did not give up over the other child, which the way it was. You had your son first, his special needs. Then you had your daughter, and because you have background in CPS, you've been in there before. They wanted your child. And the way they presented to you is that, do you want your son or you want your daughter? And you choose your son who has special needs. But it's really strange because you also are given another child to take care of on the weekends. And that was 2 children. And Faye says, I know it's hard to remember. I do try to remember everything, Faye, and if I said it incorrectly, I apologize. Salim from Georgia. She was taken from me at birth. So you must be a woman. So you're the mother of this girl. And she was not in my care at the time. She is still with him right now. I assume him is the father, the biological father. My sister is friends with the supervisor. Well, that's not good because it could work against you. Before uh, she was born, okay. And then she said they did nothing when I reported it. Oh, that's sad. They should have done something. Frank says I had false allegations, a case. I looked up to a trial which found untrue. CPS will track me like some type of criminal and are making my reunification visits almost impossible. Um, my last court date, the judge even expressed how he was disappointed how CPS is treating my case. Yep, I I agree with you, Frank. I agree with you. That is sad. A song from Georgia says, um, "You say I lost your mind." Well, I can imagine. I can imagine you did. He was 12 years old now. He is 16 now. So your child was taken at 12 and now he's 16. That's what she's saying. Now we have 10 minutes left of our podcast, and I really like if someone would like to call in and talk for 10 minutes about their case, or, and you can talk on my phone. And that way you can get a free 15-minute trial, a 15-minute consultation with Mr. Davis alive. It's through Zoom. So you were raped, I assume, Assam, you were raped, and you lost your son's twin sister. I need to go to the Supreme Court. Yeah, you need to tell me what you want to file with Supreme Court. Is it appeal or is it a complaint? The Supreme Court will not rehear the case. Faye is trying to help out. She always does. And I value what she says. What state is the 60-year-old in? That is in Georgia, Macon, Georgia. And I saw she's a woman and she did everything they said for her to do. And Frank says, I called it only let you leave a message. Yeah, that's typical. A lot of numbers are bogus numbers. I'm sorry about that. Now, Faye is saying, let's see what she's saying. In some states, you can get your parental rights reinstated if the child is still in foster care and not adopted, if you can prove that your circumstances have changed since the removal. And Asa Salim says proven mental cruelty. Now, Psalm says further, proven mental stability. Psalm says, I don't know what to do to go and get to the Supreme Court. Faye says, you have to prove that your situation has improved and the reason for removal has been reinstated. Let's see, now we're going further here. Hassan says, what steps to take forms do I need to file? Well, you go and Google up the internet and you put in your city and state and you put the letters CPS and then ask your question. You'd be surprised the answers that you'll get. Now, Frank Harris says, I was saying I called your number and I tried to call in. Let me check my number here because my phone is live. Let me call you, Frank. You call me on two numbers here. Let me go ahead and see if I can get a hold of you, Frank. Faye has a link here. Good evening, Frank. Is this you?
Hello, this is Brenda.
Okay, I thought you were Frank. Frank said he tried to call in, and
Yes, that's my husband. He's watching you live on YouTube.
Right. Did he want to talk, or did you want to talk? Because right now you're live on the podcast.
Yeah, I can talk. That's fine.
Okay. Go ahead. I'm listening.
So a CPS had started for my stepdaughter, which at the time was in 2022. There was an established child support case through Riverside County. I think the mom had signed up for some sort of aid through the county and put him down, but we couldn't locate her. And in 2022, CPS or someone had called and told my husband that he had a daughter that had been taken away from her mother. The mother had some drug issues, and there were other kids involved, and they had been taken as well, and that she was currently living with the maternal grandmother.
Okay. Now, was this daughter?
At that time,
was this daughter? Is your husband the biological father?
Yes, and that had been established.
Okay. And you're not? Were you married to him when he had this daughter?
At the we were not together, no.
Okay, so he had a daughter with another woman that had drug problems.
Yes, it was a very, fleeting relationship. Didn't last long. He wasn't even aware that she was pregnant with his child at the time, and they parted ways. He did have a child support case that was open, and he couldn't ever get a hold of her. He kept trying to reach her via Facebook, phone numbers that he had for her. And she would have phone numbers turned off, or Facebook, she would either block him or deactivate it, message him from a completely new account. So there's a lot of back and forth going on where in between time, he was saying, if you're saying this child is mine, I'm willing to, give you money. I'm willing to buy clothes, whatever the child needs, helping with cell phone bills. That was all occurring before mom had the child taken from her. So once the child was taken from her, we live in Las Vegas. We're natives to Riverside County, but we've since moved. And CPS had told my husband and I that we needed to go through a reunification process and an ICPC application. And everything was going great, except that once Grandma found out that my husband was on track to receive custody from the court, as soon as the ICPC application was approved, there was several attempts at alienation where she was caught in lies by CPS workers trying to just stop visits from happening. She was supposed to be, the person to mediate the drop-off and pickup for visits, and she got in the way by lying about Saturday school that didn't exist. Also cussing my husband out when he attempted to pick up his daughter, saying that she didn't want to go with them. And these were instances that were all brought up to CPS. They had to call an emergency, I think it's called a CFTM meeting, where Grandma was told that the court fully intended to give my husband custody, that as soon as he passed the ICPC application process, that, she would be moving to Vegas with us. We had one more visit after that, and then after that visit, my husband was told all visits were stopped, that there was some sort of investigation that needed to happen, and until then, there was to be no contact whatsoever with his daughter.
Right.
There was no information given as to what the investigation was about. He had spent every day calling down to the CPS Hemet office requesting to speak with the workers, the investigative workers, their supervisors. He was kind of bounced around. Nobody would really talk to him. Nobody would explain to him why he couldn't see his daughter, why he couldn't talk with his daughter, and that at some point, I believe the investigative worker had divulged to him that there was some sexual abuse allegations made, and that they were supposed to have occurred on that last visit that we had had with her, and that he would need to speak with the regular worker because the case was going to get closed out, and once the case was closed out, he'd be able to move on with visits. That was not the case, however. When he spoke with the regular worker, the worker told him that the case was not closed and that it was being passed on to law enforcement, and that he couldn't close the case until law enforcement had provided them with like a clear. My husband was not receiving any type of contact from any law enforcement agency, and we were due in court earlier this year regarding the matter. And at that point, the county council was basically asking for an extension and more time because they wanted law enforcement to investigate the matter. My husband had to go out of his way to ensure that an investigation happened, all the way to the means of driving all the way out to Riverside County Sheriff Lake Matthews office and conducting an entire investigation, a polygraph. Myself and my other three daughters that were supposed to have been there for the allegations were also interviewed. the investigator had gone out to the home where the allegations were supposed to have happened and looked at the entire setup. There were security cameras in the area where she had said it would have happened, and we would have been able to recover footage. Wasn't possible. Long story short, it went to trial. The ruling from the court was that the allegations were untrue and that there was no way that anything of the sort could have happened. Since those rulings have been made, the next recommendation from CPS was to terminate services to my husband. And this was because they were saying that he was going too far in an attempt to try to talk to his daughter in some Zoom meetings that he had had since then about the case, which wasn't the case. He was talking about God. She was talking about God, and some things about, telling the truth, and, you can pray about things had come up. And the worker, who was the same worker involved the entire time, that was constantly ignoring the fact that grandmother was coaching and that the allegations never added up and did, as minimal of an investigation as possible, was, definitely biased in the scenario. And he's been, basically acting like my husband is still guilty, even though the court has found everything untrue. So, just from the beginning, my husband was a non-offending parent. He agreed to go through, the process of CPS so, we could get custody of her. And this was the fastest way, they explained to us, to make it happen. And now he's kind of under their thumb and having to do everything that they say and being treated like he's, some terrible person, even though the court has found him innocent.
Okay. Well, that's what you got to work on. Do you guys have an attorney in court, or is it a court-appointed attorney?
Court-appointed attorney.
Yeah, that's your biggest mistake, because they will not fight for your case. Their caseload is 30 or more clients, and they are not really schooled in dependency law. They're only schooled in criminal law, and they are controlled by the CPS workers and the CPS attorneys. So I'm afraid you're having a hard and long process, but eventually you'll get through with your court. You got to make that court-appointed attorney work and fight for your case. You got to give him some heat underneath his butt and tell him to work.
She actually fought pretty hard and was able to win the case that went to trial. I know that court-appointed attorneys aren't the best, what we have right now. And there was just, a lot of work put in on my husband's end. He had spent so much time calling CPS daily and, making note of everything that was being said. And, us coming up with the fact that there's, different pieces of evidence that can show that her allegations just weren't possible. It just wasn't even possible. And, that kind of all coming together, the judge just saw that there was no way at all. The judge even almost reprimanded county council for the last court date that we had just went to, because some of the actions he was saying, could be interpreted as there was a bias against my husband. So we're just trying to see what options there might be to hold CPS accountable.
Well, I'd like to talk further, but I've already gone past 8 o'clock. That's my cutoff time. And I would like you to call back in tomorrow at 8 o'clock in the morning Pacific Standard Time, or 10 o'clock tomorrow night, and continue this. Also, by you calling in, or your husband, well, it's actually you're entitled to a meeting with Vincent Davis, free, a 15-minute Zoom meeting, private consultation with the top dependency lawyer in the country. And would you like that?
Yes, I appreciate that. So call back in tomorrow morning at 8 a.m.?
8 a.m. or tomorrow evening to continue it. You can also text me at my number. Let me take down the message from your husband. I think he is there. But if you text me at 626-698-0990 with your full name, your email, and your phone number, I'll send it over to my producer who arranged a meeting with you and Mr. Davis to speak for 15 minutes. And you can talk about, it's really, he's a great attorney to talk to. He's a pit bull of attorney, but he'll help you out so much. So that's all you have to do. I'll look for your text message at the number 626-698-0990. But I do have to sign off. I want to thank you and your husband for calling in. And I know you guys said your case was in Macon, Georgia. And so I want to thank you.
Riverside County, California.
Oh, your case is in Riverside, California. I guess I got confused with somebody else. I'm sorry. Riverside, California here. So I thank you for your time and calling in. Faye, you're a marvelous woman. I appreciate what you say. She's helping. She wants to help all of you. And God bless you, Faye. You're so great to be here. And I really thank you for all that you do. Boy, you talked a lot tonight. I'm scrolling up here in the comments. That was really great. I have some other people in the room. Monique McCord from Atlanta, Georgia. There it is, from Macon, Georgia. And she's one from Macon, Georgia. And then I had someone that never told me where they're from, but I want to thank you all for calling in. I want to thank you all for, being here. You're part of my family. I want you to keep trying. Don't give up. I'm on twice a day, 14 shows a week. I've been doing this for a year. I'm on holidays. I never fret. I'm here for you. So God bless you all. And this is going to be Bob Pace signing off until tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock.